Hi, this is Kira Blackwell, Program Executive of NASA iTech. Welcome to our virtual pitch competition.
NASA iTech is a program that we have within the Space Technology Mission Directorate Office that searches for cutting-edge technologies that are solving problems on Earth that also have the potential to be a solution for NASA and the space industry.
What's unique about the NASA iTech program is that it operates in profoundly different, less traditional ways. They send out a technology call for applications to address specific NASA needs.
We have our subject matter experts, our chief technologists, provide endorsement, and with that, work hand in hand with the investors that are there.
Entrepreneurs need courage to do what they do. They need to have quite a bit of endurance to be able to withstand the pressures of being an entrepreneur. And they really need an ecosystem in their surroundings to help them move that technology forward.
Normally, when you submit a proposal, you're never going to get the opportunity that you get to sit down with our chief technologist across our agency. And that's critical. It's critical for the entrepreneurs.
And the great thing just from sitting at the NASA iTech was looking at how some of these technologies, even though they were geared for space, some of the technologies could be repurposed for different scientific challenges in the environment, in space, and medicine.
How much better than having the CTO of a NASA center sitting with me talking to that technology?
The access and really collaboration that we get as finalists has been incredibly helpful and creates an opportunity for us to solve problems.
The beauty of it is those discussions are coming back with literally the technologists and the experts right now in the industry.
We are building a network of data relay satellites that can help remote sensing satellites get more data to the ground and reduce latency.
Where your Roomba and your drone have a kid, and the kid can disinfect the space station.
Our system can process wastewater just like it does in the body and urine, so that you get clean, deliverable water to a community on the ground.
Our team has developed a suite of patent-pending miniature robots that fit inside the pathways of the body.
We provide lifelike motion for the next generation of robotics and automation.
And I'm here to tell you about our needle-free jet injection technology.
It's an exercise machine that grabs intelligent data from astronauts in a microgravity environment.
We have designed a small, compact, lightweight apparatus for high-contrast imaging of dim exoplanets next to bright stars.
NASA iTech is reaching out to identify cutting-edge technologies that do have a commercial market value, but also can be customized to work within the space agency. We all benefit from that.
So this is the agenda for today. For those of you who are tying in live stream, I kind of wanted to actually give you an idea of what you were going to be looking at and what the schedule would be like. So starting at 2, we will end at 4:00 p.m. The proposals will run from 2:15 to, and at 2:55 we'll have the judges do the Q&A. Judges will convene at 3:30, and then we'll have a keynote speaker that will pop in at 3:30 as well. Gary Shapiro, President and CEO of Consumer Technology Association. We'll have our winner announced at 3:52, and so and then we'll have the winner be able to just give a response. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you enjoy it. Next slide. So NASA iTech, you got to see our video that talks about it. We actually shared with you some of the entrepreneurs that have pitched in the past. And so we lead the development of strategic partnerships to discover advancements in commercial market technologies not already funded by NASA that can enable NASA's Moon to Mars mission. And our vision for this is the infusion of a robust spin-in technology pipeline aligned with the agency mission needs. Next slide. And so NASA iTech, our mission, our plan, it aligns very cleanly with NASA's strategic overall plan as an agency, and that's important. Next slide. And so why iTech? Well, when you sit back and you think about that, we replace laptops every 3 years. I mean, every 3 years we're replacing laptops, and or you can throw in phones. Technology is being developed at an unprecedented rate. And so we need to find different ways to approach searching for those technologies so that we could possibly infuse that into the agency, not just NASA, but other government agencies. So there's a need for a different model, and that was why we created NASA iTech. Next slide. And so investors, they need a different model than what we've had. Traditional government timeline is from, phase 1, phase 2, maybe our SBIR programs, you're looking at a 2-year time period, maybe 3-year, right? If they get a phase 2, in that 3-year time period, sorry about that. I love technology and that we're doing it virtually. In that 2-year time, or that 3-year time period, we've already replaced the technology we had 3 years ago with our laptop. And so what do the investors say about that?
We have companies there that were finishing up an A series going to a B series raise. So that's a completely different discussion. The beauty of it is those discussions are coming back with literally the technologists and the experts right now in the industry, that can help us from a government perspective look at it. We had 10 obviously in each cycle. 8 of them fit our investment thesis. 5 we went into consult with in some advisory role. 2 we took to funding. 1, this is in a span of 6 months. And then 1 we closed within 3 months for them to get $9 million in the bank so they can move on.
And that doesn't happen that quickly in the tech world with finding entrepreneurs or that many that investors are interested in. But they're seeing that within the model that we've developed. So corporations need a different model too. And so let's hear what Elliot Peck says about that.
You don't have to invent everything yourselves.
No.
And some of those technologies already exist. We need to find ways to help you solve your problems. And I think that that's what hit us when we had the iTech forum at the headquarters of there's limitless opportunities, we just need to make the connections. I just see lots of opportunities where we can help to solve problems, and if you don't mind, I'd like to, this was from Betty Sapp yesterday, talking about utilizing commercial products that already exist.
Yes.
And I think that this is a perfect complement to the technologies that we have to be deployed in space.
And what he was talking about is from a Canon perspective, when they hosted us for our event, he didn't see a connection with what Canon, a camera company, is developing and technologies that could be useful for NASA. But I would say that not only what did he see that there was a great, that they could probably meet some of our needs and we could meet some of theirs, it was a really big eye opener for them. The next video that you're going to see is government needs a different model. So Heather Wilson spoke at a space conference, and I will say that they have adopted a lot of NASA iTech's model within their own agency because they're starting to see, hey, this could be useful.
And last month in New York City, we held our inaugural pitch day. We invited entrepreneurs, universities, and startups to pitch revolutionary solutions to some of our complicated problems. The idea was no more than 5 pages in a pitch deck. We got over 400 proposals, and we selected 59 companies to pitch their ideas to government and industry and investors in New York. We awarded 51 contracts in 1 day, valued at over $8 million. And the average time to close a deal on a 1-page contract with the United States Air Force was 15 minutes.
So there's an ecosystem that actually takes place. And traditionally, having investors invest in technologies coming out of government or corporations, they might have a sector that does that are partnering with the government, but it's not been typical. And so what the ecosystem should look like and what it looks like with what we're doing with iTech, I think you need to click, Robin, sorry. So that the other, thank you. So having the government also working with corporations, also working with the investment community and the innovators, I think it actually is a really strong ecosystem for innovation to actually move forward. And so who does NASA iTech benefit? It benefits society, the private sector, other government agencies, as well as NASA. And instead of me telling you, let's hear what they say.
The epiphany for me was that I was teaching my son how to ski a number of years ago. He was about 4 or 5 years old, and I do these airway reconstructions for little babies. So babies are born with tiny little breathing pipes, and if you don't fix them, they all die. And we were on the top of a hill, and I got a call about a baby that's coming over from about 3-4 hours away from the west coast. The challenge was that obviously if I didn't get down safely, it wasn't good for me, and nor was it good for the baby. So it occurred to me that any knowledge that's contained within sort of one individual is not a very good knowledge, and you should be able to program it or have it in a technology that can be transmitted horizontally across to your colleagues and then vertically to next generation. So hence sort of a notion about wanting to democratize surgery. That's so really the motivation.
And he's gone on to develop autonomous robotic capabilities.
Only NASA can play the catalyst role that we're seeing here. Your program should absolutely be the model.
And that's the CEO of ULA.
When I heard the presentations, especially from the top three, I was blown away by the way they're able to attract some of these companies to answer some of their challenges that are tough technology challenges. Right. And we have some of those tough science challenges as well that although we have fantastic scientists and we have people that are working around the clock to try to answer some of the challenges we have, the reality is, we don't have the budget we would like to have to be able to tackle some of the challenges in the way we would like to. So it's definitely a great time to start looking outside of the paradigm that we operate under to look at different ways and different companies that are trying to answer these challenges. And the great thing just from sitting at the NASA iTech was looking at how some of these technologies, even though they were geared for space, we could repurpose them for our own challenges in the seaborne world. And that's something that I brought back to our agency and also talking to some of the entrepreneurs and kind of looking outside of just your specific niche and seeing how some of the technologies could be repurposed for different scientific challenges in the environment, in space, and in medicine.
And so this is the impact that NASA iTech has had on the entrepreneurs. In about 3.5 years, they've been able to leverage over $500 million of private investment dollars, moving the technology forward with a goal for the agency where that technology would be something we could buy off the shelf and incorporate within the agency. And so seeing these technology moving forward that quickly has been very helpful for us. This is just an example of some of the businesses, some of the companies, small startup companies, some of the universities that we've had the privilege of being able to work with that have come through our NASA iTech program. And so this is our schedule for the ones that are in yellow are actually our virtual ones. So when we were sort of quarantined, we had to change from going live into cities to actually doing this. So now I'm going to pass it off to the judges because I'd like for them to just give a quick blurb about who they are. Just tell me your name and what you do so that we'll be able to know who you are when you get on screen. And they're going to be evaluating the proposals today.
Okay, I'm Tammy Belk. I'm the Innovation Coordinator with NASA at Kennedy Space Center.
Hi, I'm Francisco Cruz. I'm Deputy Director of the Environmental Protection Agency's National Enforcement Investigation Center. And I also have over 10 years of experience in emergency response, specializing in biological decontamination. Happy Earth Day.
Yeah, my name is John Dankinich. I'm the Chief Technologist at NASA Marshall, where we lead the agency in advanced manufacturing, propulsion, and life support systems.
Starbridge Venture Capital, which is ostensibly the world's first space-focused venture capital fund. I'm also the founder of Space Technology Holdings, which is a business development corporation concentrating on space-focused or derived or designed technologies.
I'm a vitreoretinal surgeon, entrepreneur, and patent holder. I write about COVID-19 related problems. I also help to found and co-chair the VIP physician program at the CES, the world's largest technology show.
Hi, I'm Joe Merrill. I am with Sputnik ATX, the venture capital fund in Austin, Texas. We also operate an accelerator program and are one of the most active investors in the fast-growing Texas entrepreneurship ecosystem.
Hi, everyone. My name is Aubrey Paris. I am a Science and Technology Policy Advisor in the Office of the Science and Technology Advisor to the Secretary at the U.S. Department of State, and my technical background is in chemistry, materials science, and biology.
Hello, I'm Harry Partridge. I'm the Chief Technologist at NASA Ames. My background is chemical physics. The Ames focus areas includes robotics, autonomy, life sciences, and astrobiology, air traffic control, and a number of other areas. I'm looking forward to this today.
Hi, my name is Saskia Popescu. I'm a senior infection preventionist in Phoenix, Arizona at Honor Health, and I am coming at it more so from the healthcare perspective, and I have a background in infectious disease epidemiology, contact tracing, surveillance, but also biodefense.
I'm Marin Rajadurai with the U.S. State Department. I work with the Office of the Science and Technology Advisor to the Secretary of State, and I concentrate on building investments and public-private partnerships on behalf of innovation. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that this starts the, we'll start the pitch competition. If you want to, if everyone would give me a round of applause for our judges, I sure hope I hear the sound. You have that? Thank you. Thank you for everybody like participating. We appreciate it. And the entrepreneurs, if they weren't scared before, they probably are now that they've gotten all of your titles. So let's kick off the pitch competition.
And so first up, we have Marie Incorporated.
As of 2020, approximately 1.2 billion people live without electricity and lack communication and economic development. That's approximately 3.5 times the population of the US. Our objective is to develop a nano power plant using a revolutionary process that operates fully independently from the grid. It can generate power whenever it is needed. This best-in-class power generation hardware, along with a software platform to monitor the system's health status, is designed to de-risk power from becoming a limiting factor in the operation. Gensel Energy has been in business since 2011 with over 90 employees, which 20 of them have Ph.D. credentials as part of the research and development team. The technology has been commercially available since 2016 with customers in the electrical utility, telecom, and industrial markets, to name a few, and has a great partnership with Marie Inc. to scale the business in the US. Although fuel cell technology is not new to NASA, Gensel has created a revolutionary process that allows us to extract hydrogen from ammonia without any power from the grid. A way to crack and use the ammonia NH3 molecule to run on 75% hydrogen and 25% nitrogen without the need to increase the purification process or completely isolate the nitrogen molecules. This value of this process is that NH3 can be utilized as a standalone fuel source and maintain all the great attributes of fuel cell technology, particularly important in space use. Key attributes include emission-free electrical power generation, can be used to power lunar vehicles, can standardize the energy production systems, become a potable water contributor, and become an oxygen generation facilitator, maintain crew habitat, and it's 100% sustainable and designed to power mission-critical equipment. When looking at it from an ecosystem, the fuel cell technology chemical reaction process generates heat and water as a byproduct. This thermal energy can be used to temperature control the cabin or equipment. The water production side can be used to hydrate astronauts and be part of the product water. Combined heat and power, or CHP, is used to increase fuel cell efficiency to almost 90%. Also, the lack of noble metals in the catalyst reduces CapEx. Now, when looking at it from the fuel perspective, ammonia is the only fuel resource needed to generate electrical power. NH3 is an enabler to operate a day, a week, a month, or even up to a year. This technology can also operate with commercial or industrial grade hydrogen. On many mission space programs, NH3 is already on board as a refrigeration agent, so it's not a new concept. On Earth, the supply chain is already in place, and so is the safety protocols, making it the ideal fuel. This game-changing patented technology enables users to apply this technology in applications where emergency backup or primary power is needed while benefiting from all the maintenance, high reliability, and remote management attributes, and for the first time, much more affordable than diesel. Thank you.
Next, we have organicNANO.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, NASA iTech affiliates, members of the military, and people around the world. There are currently a shortage of 2 million face masks and 2 million face shields in the state of Louisiana alone, a major hotspot for the growing pandemic. Healthcare professionals are on the front lines, battling the current crisis of COVID-19 and having to resort to homemade apparatuses that are not effective at preventing the spread of viral particles. Not only are there a shortage of masks, but current N95 and other makeshift garments do not properly filter viral particles. COVID-19 particles range from 60 to 140 nanometers, while N95 masks only filter particles at 300 nanometers, a significant problem needing to be addressed rapidly. We have the solution through 3D printed masks with an increased filter porosity to 50 nanometers, along with so much more here at organicNANO. Hi, I'm Chris Miller, the Director of Research for Nanomedicine Research and Development, CIO for organicNANO, a Ph.D. candidate in molecular science and nanotechnology, and a self-trained Ironman triathlete with professional aspirations one day. Our dynamic team, led by CEO Dr. David K. Mills, are ready to advance with commercialized products addressing the current mask shortage. We have a patented technology to apply metal ions to the outside of halloysite nanotubes in a cost-effective, organic manner using only water and electricity. Metal ions have been known for their potent antiviral and bacterial effects, and halloysites can further be vacuum loaded with drugs to enhance their antimicrobial properties. These sophisticated filter systems for masks are interchangeable and can be combined with current NASA color-changing filters to indicate healthcare professionals when to change them. We can also think to apply these filters to ventilation systems aboard the ISS, spacesuits for our astronauts, and of course the space shuttle itself. Our technology does not stop at filter systems either. They can be applied to bandages to enhance wound healing, alleviate pain and inflammation, and eliminate infection. A significant medical kit upgrade for warfighters, current astronauts, and people without proper medical access. And what about replacing titanium screws with halloysite embedded calcium phosphate screws? We can do that too. Join us at organicNANO to innovate personalized patient care, protect our warfighters and astronauts, and help save lives across the world. Thank you for your time.
Next is Patientory Inc.
In recent weeks, you have likely heard politicians, doctors, and activists declaring that we need pervasive testing before we can reopen the economy. But before we can open the economy again, once the testing is complete, a whole new set of problems emerge. Where are millions of daily test results stored? Who is granted access to this data? What good does the testing do if no one or the wrong people have access to the most personal of data? Data that determines if I can work, fly, attend a theater, or must be quarantined. Do you really want Facebook or Google to have that much personal data in a central repository? Hi, I'm Krista McFarland, and I'm the founder and CEO of Patientory, and we have been working on the answers to these questions for over 4 years. We have already raised a Series A round, and our investors include leading global funds such as RGA Ventures. My team and I are digital health experts with collectively over 40 years experience in this industry, and we're on a mission to improve the global healthcare IT infrastructure for improved chronic disease outcomes, and most recently, pandemic patient management outcomes. We are founding members of the P2iNet HIPAA-compliant blockchain network, which is currently integrated in over 10,000 hospitals' electronic medical records in the United States. Our software, which runs on this network, also aggregates data from wearable and IoT devices to provide intelligence around social and economic determinants of health risks for population health management. Patientory provides a real-time COVID-19 patient tracking and symptom reporting tool with a self-inspection quiz that verifies a patient's COVID-19 testing status and alerts them if they have been in the vicinity of someone who has the virus. This is easily and securely shareable with telehealth providers, healthcare reporting agencies via the blockchain network. We are a B2B2C business model, and we sell directly via sales channels through our SaaS platform to enterprises and receive consumer revenue through our personalized care plan subscription with over 13 patents pending. We provide data intelligence through the integration of disparate legacy systems and a secure decentralized network, providing value to government charged with public health, employers that need to get their workforce safely back to work, and people who want to live their lives. Join us in making your health secure and accessible right at your fingertips. Thank you.
Next up is Quantify.
Recent estimates indicate that nearly twice as many people are experiencing mental health concerns in the wake of COVID and the financial uncertainty that it's brought. To show the possible cost of that, if the same rate matriculates to deaths of despair like drug overdoses and suicides, we are on track to lose more lives to the psychological effects of the virus than the biological ones. And to prevent that, we have to act now and with good data. I'm Glenn Coppersmith. I'm the founder and CEO of Quantify, and for more than 5 years, we've been operating at the intersection of human behavior and data science. We're an entirely bootstrapped company, revenue positive from day one, and operating a fully distributed team of 19. Our clients include Fortune 100 companies, DARPA, and one former US president. NASA, just like the rest of us, is trying to address their core mission with a workforce that is at best distracted and at worst cognitively compromised. So we see a national need and an opportunity to better understand how individuals and groups can thrive in isolation, similar to some of the proposed NASA missions of the human crew. Work here will support our people operating in isolation today and the astronauts training for isolation tomorrow. And more broadly, we can provide critical information about the trade-off between the biological and psychological costs of our policies and programs. All the research that we have about resilience and recovery are from a pre-COVID world when our society looked very different. And so as much as we need better data about the biology of the virus, we also need better data about the mental health and well-being of the population at scale and in real time if we're going to make smart decisions here. So Quantify uses digital life data to get real-time estimates of people's well-being. At the core of this technology is the ability to take things we generate in our everyday lives, like language on social media or actigraphy from our wearables, and turn it into information about our mental health. We can quantify the effects of social distancing and isolation and use it to shape the new normal. We provide organizations and policymakers with actionable insights via always-on reporting and in-depth strategic guidance, filling a need for real-time information while preserving privacy. For example, we use our tech in partnership with the George W. Bush Center's Military Service Initiative to more precisely understand the well-being of veterans and enrich their lives. This is all powered by our proprietary analytics that use tens of thousands of linguistic and non-linguistic signals derived via machine learning and natural language processing from a diverse population. And the signals here are probably not the ones that you're thinking of. This isn't someone talking about having depression or anxiety or thoughts of suicide. It's how often they say things like I and we, which words they use to convey emotion, and their use of emoji. Many of these analytics have been peer-reviewed and published if you want a more in-depth understanding of how they work. It's worth noting that this is not restricted to text or social media, and we have similar capabilities for audio and images too. So we also use this tech to directly improve people's well-being, and know that right now, in partnership with the Erica Legacy Foundation, we're providing personalized support to the healthcare providers on the front lines of this pandemic and the people that are currently stuck in isolation. So if you want a partner to provide support in this time of need, or if you need precision guidance about a group's well-being, come find us. We can quantify that.
Now let's hear from some of our NASA iTech alumni. First up is Eris MD.
Every day that we're without a drug to address COVID-19, thousands of people die. While drug companies and researchers worldwide struggle to find treatments, we and our loved ones are at continuous risk. Hi, I'm Scott Edgar, CTO of Eris MD. A typical drug brought to market goes through 4 phases of clinical trials, with the majority of those drugs, 72%, not passing the first 2 phases. It takes on average 10 years for a drug to go from initial trials to market, and the estimated cost of the process averages from $2 to $3 billion. This process is long and expensive and typically relies on patient feedback and testing of blood and other secondary methods for results, which can lead to inaccurate or indeterminate results. So what do we do in a pandemic? Time is critical when dealing with an outbreak, and we can't wait 10 years for a solution. We believe that our software has the ability to use DICOM imaging, which is diagnostic imaging from machines like MRI, CT, ultrasound, X-ray, to accelerate drug trials and provide concrete empirical evidence for trials. With high-resolution imaging, we would be able to detect microscopic changes, whether improvements or degradations, of a patient's body. With diagnostic imaging, a typical scan is done by taking a slice every 1 to 4 millimeters. This discards a vast majority of the scan data in order to keep the quantity of data small enough for a human doctor to look through in a reasonable amount of time. Our artificial intelligence system keeps and examines the entire data set in real time, which would give accurate and near instant results to doctors and researchers. By providing rapid and accurate results, we believe the trial process can be expedited and either moved on more quickly or closed earlier. For a case like COVID-19, we could look at the lungs of a patient, for example, before, during, and after administration of a drug or treatment, which would give rapid and conclusive evidence as to whether or not the drug or treatment is effective. By doing this early on in a trial, and by doing this frequently, we can expedite the process of the trial and hopefully bring these drugs to market sooner. Drug trials are lengthy and costly. Every moment we spend waiting for treatments costs lives and puts society at risk, especially in a pandemic like COVID-19. Early identification of impact and adverse effects could revolutionize the way clinical trials are done, speeding up the FDA approval process and making treatment more affordable for all. We believe we can help expedite trials of life-saving treatments. We're ready to help. Thank you.
Now let's hear from Dimer UVC Innovations.
My name is Elliot Mo Kreitenberg, and I'm an international and intergalactic infection preventionist. I'm the co-founder and president of Dimer UVC Innovations, and our cornerstone product is the Germ Falcon. When my father and co-founder, Dr. Arthur Kreitenberg, and I began the Germ Falcon project, our mission was to transform the airplane from the germiest to the cleanest part of the travel experience. In the context of the COVID-19 pandemic, airplanes and airlines played a direct role in bringing the virus to US soil, spreading it around the country, and carrying it to the remote corners of the world. Commercial airplanes themselves, in normal circumstances, are not so conducive to social distancing. When this disease started spreading internationally, WHO announced enhanced passenger health screenings for inbound passengers from China. If someone sets off one of these alarms, what's CDC's protocol for airplane cabin recourse? We offered Germ Falcon units for free at LAX, SFO, and JFK. We started disinfecting inbound flights from China right away. We were wearing PPE with the cleaning crews, who should also be considered first responders, and they deserve our gratitude. UVC works by disrupting the RNA or DNA of a pathogen. UVC is proven effective against all known disease-causing viruses, bacteria, and superbugs. It's been relied upon by hospitals for decades. In times like these, when you are interested in disinfecting your space, look to healthcare for guidance, and whenever possible, do what they're doing. Our product line also features the UV Hammer, dropping jaws and killing germs, and poised to be standard in the wildly unsaturated healthcare market. Not to mention, it's easy to use in schools, offices, hotels, cruise ships, nursing homes, government buildings, training facilities, convention centers hosting major consumer technology events this January in Las Vegas, etc., etc. With help from NASA and Teledyne Brown, we're also developing our intergalactic product. The Germ Rover is a microgravity Roomba that disinfects vacant modules of the International Space Station constantly every single day. When this terrible pandemic does eventually pass, it's important to remember what we've learned and apply it to flu season. As infection preventionists, we recommend there be a Germ Falcon stationed at every gate at every airport in the world, a global need of more than 250,000 units. This could potentially happen after every flight, and it's strongly recommended that it be done at least once per day. What we're asking from you is we need government help to require that airlines disinfect aircraft at least once per day. Thank you.
Next, iFirst Medical Technologies, Inc.
I'm Luke Joseph, founder and CEO of iFirst Medical Technologies. iFirst's objectives are to improve patient outcomes and relieve strain on ICU resources for COVID-19. iFirst has taken what used to be a $50,000 piece of lab equipment that measures blood clotting or coagulation and put it in the palm of your hand. Our device provides a graph of coagulation over time. This is an example of a normal coagulation profile, and it can replace multiple lab tests and provide actionable information earlier. Unfortunately, the death rates and overall cases of COVID-19 continue to climb. The latest data is showing that 5 people die every minute. At this rate, 15 people will die during my short presentation. Information is continuously being published on COVID-19, and patterns are beginning to surface that hold the answer to identifying the patients that are at the highest risk and treating them early to avoid admission into the ICU and possibly death. In one study, 70% of non-surviving COVID-19 patients exhibited massive clotting in their lungs and other organs. This is something called DIC. For survivors, it was only 0.4%. This is a generic profile, a generic coagulation profile of a DIC patient. Another interesting thing is that those that tested positive to COVID-19 show clear coagulation abnormalities upon admission. For the non-surviving patients, these coagulation abnormalities continue to get worse each day. And you can see this, the publications have shown this with the coagulation panels, and what we suspect is you would see the same thing with these coagulation profiles. And what you don't see is this happening with the survivors. The survivors, their coagulation abnormalities plateau, and they don't progress down to DIC. Another thing that they have found is administering anticoagulants early in the infection increases the outcomes. So what's important here is to test people as soon as possible, possibly at home, possibly at their doctor's office, and get people on anticoagulants as early as possible. This not only potentially saves lives, but it also can free up the limited resources in the ICU for other patients. Our analyzer is production ready and currently being tested by Underwriters Laboratories, and we expect to receive our CE mark in the next 2 months. iFirst wishes to partner with government agencies and manufacturers to increase the production of our analyzer and get them out to the field where they can save lives. By the way, massive blood clots due to exposure to cosmic radiation are one of the primary threats for astronauts. So if you're traveling to Mars, you might want to have one of our analyzers. Thank you.
And our next alumni is One Milo.
Hi everyone, I'm Russell Lee from One Milo in Miami. Our COVID-19 rapid antibody test is why One Milo was invited to participate today. Soon to be available in the FDA's Emergency Use Authority and made in the USA that makes us unique. It's also validated at 98.2% accuracy. While discussing whether antibody testing has clinical efficacy with HHS, I asked if I could circle back to that consideration. In the meantime, I wanted to discuss the philosophy of antibody testing. You see, the cat is out the bag. Everyone now wants an antibody test because we all need to know. We need data about our family, our social circles, our colleagues, and our communities. Who is immune? How far has this virus really spread? And who needs to have a vaccine when one becomes available? So in this video conference with DoD, HHS, NIH, and the FDA, I asked if I could send any one of them one of our antibody tests, and they all replied that they wanted one. I said that is the reason why the population needs one. So let us get back to good medicine. We did a trial in a children's hospital. One of the first tests was on a PCR-confirmed negative patient, and our test found antibodies on a patient that had been designated COVID-19 negative. An exception or a false positive? No, these were convalescent antibodies. The child was COVID-19 PCR negative and antibody positive, and it slipped through the system. The kid gets his immunity card, and that made me really happy. One Milo has spent the last 2 years developing our connected health ecosystem, which is powered by proprietary systems for point of care and self-diagnostics. The purpose of the system is to deliver precision medicine to mass populations for the purpose of bringing clinical and economic improvements to patient care. The first line of our elevator pitch, or the problem, has always been labs cannot conveniently and economically provide point-of-care testing for chronic care management or address the globalization of infectious diseases. Globalization of infectious diseases will never be a phrase we take lightly again. Just one more thing. One Milo's rapid COVID-19 antibody test is smart. Our proprietary test strip called Smart Rapid seamlessly reports the test to the cloud where medical professionals can review results in real time in centralized locations from any time and anywhere point of care testing. We are in a place to start delivering significant quantities of our tests in about 10 days' time, and then about 5 million tests a week by the end of May. We want the obvious capabilities of our connected health ecosystem to reach the largest populations possible. We're looking to do a much larger FDA 510K trial to enable OTC usage for every one of these at home. There is a way out of this, and we want everyone to stay safe. Thank you.
Next is Steelhead Composites.
This virus has swept through China, Europe, and the US, leaving behind staggering rates of morbidity and mortality. In recent days, we've started to see the number of cases spike in the developing world. I'm Leslie Smith, Director of Health and Medical Affairs with Steelhead Composites, and we're here today to share our innovation in addressing shortages of medical oxygen and power to any location in the world treating COVID patients. Steelhead Composites is an aerospace composites company with our lightweight pressure vessels deployed from the depths of the ocean to outer space. We have over 100 customers, and our tanks are on every continent with the exception of Antarctica. Since early March, the media has bombarded us with story after story on inadequate supplies of personal protective and medical device equipment, including the most important product of all, oxygen. As COVID attacks the respiratory system, most hospitalizations require oxygen therapy. While current discussions focus on the overuse of ventilators, oxygen delivery through less invasive means is a best practice treatment in cases both during infection and recovery. With such a great need for oxygen, Steelhead is proud to take our aerospace quality system and manufacturing capabilities and introduce our mobile power and oxygen solution for COVID-19. We have designed a swappable trailer system using both our lightweight high-pressure hydrogen tanks and medical oxygen tanks. To fill the vessels, we are working with electrolysis. Electrolysis has long been used by NASA to maintain oxygen supply on the International Space Station. If current is introduced to water, it results in H2O becoming O2, oxygen for breathing, and H2, hydrogen for power. This solution is critical for the developing world and pop-up hospitals, which do not have the infrastructure adequate for power and oxygen to save lives. We are looking for capital, partners, and support in rapidly testing and deploying this life-saving system. As time is of the essence, by becoming a system-level provider, we address the problem straight on and offer this end-use solution for rapid integration. The great thing about this innovation is that we can not only save lives during COVID, but we can take this concept to the moon. As ice has been confirmed on the moon poles, we could melt and electrolyze the lunar ice, capturing the oxygen and the hydrogen. We can store the oxygen for breathing air for manned missions and then store the hydrogen for propulsion. Steelhead has a legacy in hydrogen storage, and with our newest pivot, is quickly adding lightweight medical oxygen storage. While this life-saving technology was inspired by the current crisis, its reach can go far beyond our world by enabling a lunar refueling station. Thank you for your time and consideration. We welcome your support in bringing this worldwide humanitarian aid solution to fruition.
And last but not least, Tevasol.
During the course of this brief 3-minute presentation, 10 Americans will die of COVID-19. And that is just a fraction of the number of deaths that are happening around the world. At the same time, another 12 Americans will die of end-stage heart and lung disease. The best treatment for end-stage organ failure is transplantation. So why can't we save more lives immediately? I'm a cardiothoracic transplant surgeon, and the answer lies in how we preserve organs currently. We race around the continent, sending teams with a cooler filled with ice to procure organs and rush them back while they're slowly dying, irreversibly damaged, and completely dead within 10 hours. Since this process has so many inherent risks, we shamefully turn down over 75% of organs donated. My name is Dr. Jai Nagendran, and I'm the co-founder of Tevasol. My colleague and co-founder, Dr. Darren Freed, a fellow surgeon scientist, started with humble beginnings in his garage, where he built our first prototypes. In a few short years, we've become the only lab in the world to keep hearts, lungs, livers, kidneys, and even limbs alive outside of the body at normal body temperature with blood flowing through them. As you can see on the upper image, those are human lungs alive. I performed the first in-human clinical trial using our technology with 12 sets of donor lungs that were going to be thrown into the garbage, and converted all 12 sets into good quality donor organs with 12 successful double lung transplants. Those are 12 lives saved. In the lower image, you can see that our portable technologies will easily lead to doubling of viable donor organs, keeping them warm, alive, and safe. This will save thousands of lives immediately and likely also be needed to help many more people who have survived COVID-19 yet are left with debilitating severe lung disease. Our technologies also provide the ideal platform to study and treat COVID-19 at its point of penetration and most destruction, the lungs. Using our technology, we can investigate specifically targeted therapies at the lungs by nebulization directly into the airways of the lungs. Furthermore, we can study and measure any lung-specific therapy, either by delivery into the airways or by injection into the circulation that flows through the lungs. So Tivasol is the technological platform for today to study and fight this pandemic, and we are the platform of the future of drug discovery and testing on all solid organs. Finally, Tivasol's technologies can also be applied by NASA for the very same purpose of drug testing under normal and zero gravity conditions, where we know the biological effects of drugs can vary at zero gravity. I thank you for this opportunity.
So next, we're going to pass it off to our to the judges to actually question the entrepreneurs.
And so, Harry, let's start with you.
So, organicNANO, I have a quick question for you. Where are you in developing these, and are they available now, your masks?
So our masks these are our prototype masks right now. And so we are looking for commercialization, people to connect with to get these to the masses. It's interchangeable, right? I can just pop this out real easy. And so there's other things we need to optimize as far as the prototype design, but the filter works. I can pop it in real easy, just like that. It's breathable as well. Just like that.
Okay. So 50 nanometer filtering is pretty fine. How easy is it to breathe through this thing?
I mean, you can see me breathing pretty easily through it. I have no struggles whatsoever. You can breathe easier, harder. And again, there will be a little bit of optimization, when we produce more prototypes and get better technology and more funding.
Okay, and the final question is, have you demonstrated the efficacy of your copper ions at killing viruses?
And so we're also currently working with one of the only two open research facilities for doing these aerosol type research. And so we're doing those publications right now, working with these incredible researchers in collaboration. So we definitely have that, and we can back that as well, that it'll inhibit growth of viral particles.
Okay, so let me switch to the next one. Marie, how small can these systems be? Can I use it for an individual power for my house, for instance?
These systems are a little bit larger than for the house. I mean, you can't put it in the house. It has basically two components. You have one that's the cracker that basically splits the molecules between the hydrogen and the oxygen. And then you have a separate module that basically is the fuel cell. So overall, you're looking at about a 6 foot by, I would say, about 3 feet wide solution box.
Okay, so but a cabin out in the woods, you could use this.
Absolutely.
And how many of these have you installed?
I'm sorry?
How many of these have you installed, and are you selling them or leasing them?
Well, we have two different versions. We have one that's primarily used for backup solution, which is based on the same core technology that we're talking about on the ammonia solution. And we've been selling those since 2016. The ammonia solution that includes the cracker that splits the molecules, we're in the final beta testing right now for fully commercialization.
Steelhead composites. What happens if how pure does your water have to be to do the electrolysis? For instance, if there's salts present, how does that affect it?
You know, I'm going to let Andrew go ahead and take this one. There needs to be a filter component, but I'm not exactly sure on the standards of that.
Yeah, the water does need to be very pure. It has to be deionized and filtered.
Okay, thank you. In 1 mylose, how many FAA tests have you done? How many tests have you now done to get that 82% or 89%?
98.2%.
Yes. 98.2.
There was a trial of just over 200, 208, and then we validated in clinic as well a few times. So it's been validated a few times. Yeah.
Okay.
And Harry, that's time. Thank you. John, let's go with your questions, please.
Sure. So my first question is to Marie. So because you include the cracker, how does the power density of your system compare to the state-of-the-art alternative?
Can you refine your question? And when you say state-of-the-art, what do you mean by that?
How does the power density of your solution compare to one that does not include the cracker?
Density. Not really sure how to answer that question. Are you referring in terms of the amount of power that it produces?
So one of the challenges we have when we take stuff to the moon and everything else, right, is how much energy we can produce relative to the amount of mass that we need to bring and the volume that it takes up. And so I know you have a larger system, but also how much mass is included with that extra cracker unit that you have the new step that we don't carry in our current fuel cells.
Sure. So the the fuel cell consumes approximately 2.5 kilograms of hydrogen, or actually ammonia, NH3, in order to produce 4 kilowatts worth of power. Does that answer your question?
Not exactly, but that's okay. And then I have another question for organicNANO.
Yeah.
So we've been having these NASA at Work challenges and engaging our own workforce and coming up with lots of creative ideas, and I really love yours. Where we seem to get stuck sometimes is we can make 10, maybe even 20 of these things, but in terms of scale up to make millions, you have to start engaging, the commercial manufacturing companies. And so have you engaged any of those? And if so, do you have any insight into what the relative cost might be for your unit compared to something like a 3M unit?
Yeah, great question. So we haven't really reached out to any, big retailers or people that'll really help us scale this. So we really definitely need that help. And as far as how much these can cost, it depends on the metal particles. It depends on the drug that's loaded, but ideally anywhere from $20 to $40 that you can make these masks. And then again, you can reuse these parts, right? These are real cheap to make. The proprietary knowledge is with the filter. I kind of messed that up a little bit. Prototype design, right? But yeah, so we can do a lot, make it cheap for sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
I'll turn things over to Ramona if she's back online.
Thanks, John. Let's go with Tammy Belk.
I don't have any extra questions. Mine were already answered. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. So next will be Saskia.
Hi. Yeah, I have a couple of questions. For Chris, regarding the masks, do they require fit testing for the N95s?
Yeah, and so that's something else that we'll again need to address is those fit types. We're working with that, research facility that does aerosol testing, and we'll do other testing. And again, we're reaching out to people that, we want help with this as well, because it's first and foremost for our healthcare professionals at the end of the day. So yeah, it's something we'll definitely be doing as well.
So you can disinfect those pieces then between use to allow for extended.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for sure.
And how many can be made at a time? What kind of supply could you provide?
And so these current masks that we can make around 5 to 6 hours. It's 3D printing, so it's a little slower process, but maybe we can even speed those things up, get more sophisticated equipment, that sort of thing, to speed things up. But again, once you have this part, all you need is the filter, and these are a lot easier to make within 30 minutes. So again, we can reuse this and then make lots of these filters.
Are the filters sensitive to oils?
I'm actually not sure about that, but we'll do further testing about that. But as far as my knowledge, I don't think any type of oil will inhibit its use.
Okay, thank you. And then I have a couple of questions for Arthur regarding the UV disinfection. So this doesn't change the need to do manual cleaning, mostly because it doesn't penetrate biofilms. So I guess my question is, how long are the cycles for disinfection then, in addition to the manual cleaning?
On the aircraft, we do terminal disinfection, just like in the hospital. So they need to clean up the spills, clean up the trash, clean up theoretically biofilms. But as you probably know, biofilms take about 48 hours to form. So if you're doing this at least once per day, we can get ahead of that curve after the initial disinfection.
How long are the cycles though?
So at a rate of 30 rows per minute, we can achieve a 99% reduction of influenza and coronavirus on all high-touch surfaces of a 737.
And what about more spore-forming organisms like Clostridiums difficile?
Sure. Obviously, that's a big issue on a med-surg ward in a hospital. On the aircraft, it's not an issue. So, but again, we can lay down roughly 10 milliwatts per centimeter. So with our UV hammer, for example, in the hospital, we can do an overbed table in the hospital in about 3.5 to 4 seconds.
And that would kill more environmentally hardy organisms?
Including C. diff, that's correct, spore formers. We're minimizing the distance between our lamps and the target surface, and we're optimizing the angle relationship, angle of incidence between our lamps and the target surface. So we're able to deliver a much higher dosage than has been possible in the past.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Of course.
Thank you. Next is Joe Merrill.
Yeah, the problem going towards the end is all the good questions have kind of gone out, but I've just got a couple more. For Alex and Marie, could you talk a little bit about your cost per kilowatt hour when compared to other fuel cells that would just be running on traditional hydrogen that aren't doing cracking or anything like that?
Yeah, our technology is based on a comparison between a fuel cell and a diesel generator. So our operating cost is between 65 to 75 cents per hour using ammonia, compared to about $2.50 to $3.50 for diesel.
Have you compared it against other, like let's just say we have two similar fuel cells side by side? By adding the additional stage, is the cost of the hydrogen versus the ammonia and cracking it, is there a big difference?
It's a tremendous difference, because the hydrogen, most typical fuel cells are using gaseous hydrogen, which either has to be produced by, converting it from liquid back into a gas and then using it, compared to just taking it extractively directly from ammonia. So the cost differences for us is dramatically lower, which gives us the ability to actually operate as a primary power, as opposed to only typically as a emergency backup solution. And that's primarily because of the accessibility of using a liquid fuel, in this case, to be able to extract the hydrogen, and also at a much lower cost than bringing in liquid hydrogen and then converting it back into a gas.
Okay. For Patientory, who pays for this, and what's your revenue model?
So it was mentioned briefly in the presentation. We sell directly to enterprise via a software as a service model. So enterprises do subscribe to the software.
Who are the enterprises? Is it hospitals? Is it businesses? There's many different kinds of enterprises.
Yeah, so we sell to hospitals, insurance payers, pharmaceutical companies, and employers. The enterprise, I would say, workflow software. So
all right, and my one last question then for Quantify. I'm trying to understand, is what you're offering a service, meaning do companies engage you to answer a specific problem using data, or are there specific products that you have already developed using proprietary data systems that you're then offering to people?
We offer a combination of both. So for some of these things, it's detecting, people care about things like food shortages. We can say some things about that. But then, of course, inevitably, we get into what are the questions specific to your industry or your enterprise. And so there is some bespoke work that goes on there as well.
Okay, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next up is Marin Rajadura.
Great. Thank you. And first and foremost, excellent presentations all around. Really appreciated the quality of work that went into all of this and your innovations. First question for Quantify, Glenn, just to follow up on Joe's prior question. In addition to the aggregation and organization of the data, when you're in the stage of moving from that to the strategic guidance, specifically with government entities or companies, what models are you using for the strategic guidance element? Are there certain algorithms in place? Are you kind of evolving new solutions towards challenges once you have all the data in place?
This is often an iterative solution. We sort of never get all the data in place because there's always some new question that we're trying to answer. And so every one of these engagements we've had has been slightly different on answering their particular strategic questions, but there are a subset of sort of what is this population concerned about and how are they doing that are sort of standardized. We have some algorithm for that.
Okay, and just one other follow-up, and please feel free if this is too much in the details. When you talk about the concepts of introducing I versus we or emoticons and all sorts of other holistic ways of getting engaged on the psychology of people, where does it stop? I mean, at what point are you actually saying, okay, this is sufficient to identify this as the behavior or the trends of behavior for a certain subset of people?
Yeah, so it's these are induced by machine learning and natural language processing. So it's not a human coming in and saying, stop, this is where we're ending, right? This is induced from the data. So the data is really telling us where those signals are, where the powers are, and where we should cut that off.
That's fantastic. Fantastic. Chris, a question for you. Love the application of blockchain for this kind of vital resource. What protocols do you have in place to protect privacy concerns that people may have, and how have you seen that play out so far in terms of sharing your information in the way that it's been through the services so far?
Yeah, so we've built into the actual network both privacy HIPAA compliant layers on the tech and on the regulatory side. So within the technology itself, the network resides within the legacy systems that is, housed by the hospitals or our other enterprise clients. Then in using the software, we go through consent management within the actual app layer, which provides for a lot of the GDPR compliance and privacy initiatives. And then on the tech side, we have built-in security features based on the ledger that also is able to secure and encrypt the data that's stored on the network.
That's great. Thank you. Do I have time for one more question?
Actually, you don't. I'm sorry, Marion. If we have some extra time, I'll come back to you.
That's okay. Thank you, Robin.
Thank you. Next is Francisco.
Hey, so I have a couple questions for Quantify. So as far as your technology, would you be able to say that this could be used for essentially being able to predict supply chain issues such as PPE or over-the-counter drugs, based on what you're seeing from some of the behavioral modeling that you're doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we did have some results there. We tested some. This is not typically what we do, but we did test out some stuff on the onset of COVID. So one of the things we detected very early on was a coming shortage of asthma medication. It was about a week before it hit the mainstream media. So we do have some proof in market there.
Excellent. That's great. And I think that would also have a great application for emergency response when we're trying to gear up for emergency responses, being able to make sure we have enough gear that'd be a great predictor on the early end of a response. And then my only other question, because all the great questions have been asked already, for Marie, just real quick, how quickly can your system be set up? I'm thinking about if I'm out at an emergency response in a remote area, and I need to start getting some power. How quickly can I get this operational?
So our solution is designed to be fully enclosed in an enclosure that has all the equipment already connected. And all we have to do then is drop it in place, make the final connection between the electrical connection and the fuel source, whether it's straight hydrogen and or ammonia, and we're ready to go. So literally you could start operational within a couple of hours.
Perfect. Great. That's excellent. And that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Next up is Richard.
Question for Marie Inc. You said you weren't going to be using an expensive or a platinum catalyst. What will you be using, if that's possible to tell us, and what does that do to the cost of the overall unit?
I can't get into the specifics about what we're using because that's part of our proprietary technology, but what I can tell you from a cost perspective, if you're not using noble metals, you can see that long term, that's where fuel cell technology actually gets very expensive very quickly as far as when they start being more in the marketplace. So with us being able to eliminate that, and also that's from the CapEx, but also from the OpEx, and being able to use commercial or industrial grade hydrogen gives us the ability to also lower the OpEx. So we looked at these two components as a barrier to the market. So we wanted, as a company, eliminate those two barriers and make it more cost effective long term.
Got it. Thank you. Question for Daima, UVC. Guys, we've known each other a long time. What kind of traction are you getting at this point, commercially?
Hi, I'm sorry. Most of our stuff is under NDAs now, but I'll say we've been getting a ton of traction, and the situation changes every day. It's a really exciting time, and we're beyond our bandwidth. So I can't get into any details, but it's been a really fun ride.
Well deserved. That's great. Russell, what's your order book look like right now, and can you keep up?
Yeah, I don't like to take sales calls because they're really easy. All I'm doing is talking to, having conversations about how to make more of these things. There's certainly demand and there's certainly a need for these things, and we've proved the case in clinic. But we're aiming to make about 5 million a week and have control over it by the end of May, by mid-May.
And you've got the order books to substantiate that kind of ramp up in production.
Yeah, definitely, and more.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Last question, if I've got time, for Chandra and Scott. You said high resolution. Sorry, Chandra and Scott.
Yep. Yeah.
You said really high resolution on the imaging. How high resolution are we talking about here?
Well, the resolution is bounded by the machine that's doing the scan and by the actual thing being scanned. So in the case of something like an autopsy where the tissue is not live, we can do much higher because you can use a higher energy scan, for example.
So we're getting a lot of, so microscopic is where we're at currently, maybe smaller than that.
So you could see a difference. You could see a difference in the inflammation of lung cells. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Among other organs that we're looking at. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
That's all my questions. Thank you.
Next up, we have Aubrey from State Department.
Great. Hi, everyone. A fantastic job to you all. I will start with organicNANO. My question to you is, how are you looking at balancing cost efficacy and medical efficacy when selecting the metal ions that you're using in your filters?
So yeah, there's a lot of debate about different ions that you could potentially use, but there's a lot of promise with copper specifically and other copper compounds. A lot of research that backs this, especially with inhibiting H1N1 and other viral particles. And so again, we're going to work with those testing facilities, and we can add drugs as well into those halloysites. antiretroviral drugs that can inhibit other growth. So there's a lot we can do with this technology, and we're gonna ramp up things and really explore what we can really do with this stuff.
Thank you. My question for patient Tori is I'm wondering how your data collection is being impacted, if at all, by the fact that COVID testing sites are popping up very rapidly around the country and around the world, and if you're able to effectively, collect and use that data in your data stream as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we see with a lot of the COVID testing sites is they don't actually have a digital platform to accumulate all of the data, which our platform can host. Typically, we integrate with electronic medical records and PHI data stores. So the ability to have that information on our network would enable our intelligence to really start doing the trend analytics and the information necessary to make the important decisions to decrease, whether that's the infection rates or get a better understanding of the symptoms for the virus.
Thank you. For steelhead composites, I'm not going to ask you about the nature of your catalyst, as I'm assuming that's probably proprietary, but I will ask, especially since you're talking about being able to deploy your technology into different parts of the world that are perhaps less developed or more remote. I was wondering if you have done any research or considered optimizing your system into one that is photoelectrochemical or photochemical in nature?
No, the question is what we're using for electrolysis? Is that
No, I was wondering if your catalyst can be transformed into something that's beyond electrochemical, something perhaps photoelectrochemical or photochemical in the future?
We don't have a catalyst in our system. We use an electrolyzer compressor and then storage in our vessels.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool. Thank you. Am I out of time?
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next is Susan.
Hi. So I don't know if I'm last or second to last, but I don't mind at all. First, I have a question for Chris. You mentioned that you're a triathlete and I'm a wannabe athlete, but I am a doctor still seeing patients. My question is about the mask. Have you tested them for comfort and for breathability, not just of the filter, but on the face? I know that my face gets really hot, it perspires, and I'm wondering with plastic, have you looked at that at all and how that's working for healthcare professionals?
Yeah, and so that's something else that I really want to develop, because I'm even thinking about, getting rid of the strings or whatever that attach around your ears and just being an adhesive, just like a Band-Aid very much. And so it'll just like stick to your face and it'll prevent, any type of, that'll actually make it even more secure on your face. And then there's other prototype designs I have that we can even use it for children or even people with facial hair as well to, because that's another problem with N95 masks. They're not designed for children or for people with facial hair.
Great, thank you so much. I have a question for patient Tori Krissa. So I'm wondering, does this information, does it connect directly into electronic medical records? So if a patient wanted to look up the information themselves, find out if they have been in contact, other than just the app, could they look into their electronic medical records, or could their doctor get the information in real time?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest value to our platform, the fact that we now have, through the 21st Century Cures Act that was, released last month, our system now supports over 10,000 hospitals and their electronic medical record system. So that's Epic, Cerner, Allscripts, Meditech, your top 5 EMR systems. So the ability to be able to record these symptoms, verify, diagnostic status, whether positive or negative, can then be integrated from the app back to a system's EMR for the provider or the physician.
Thank you so much. And my last question is for Russell from One Milo. I think you're doing great work. Wanted to know also if your information would connect directly to electronic medical records so that patients could get the results in real time, not just the physician at the point of care.
Yeah, so we have two versions of our system. One is the instant rapid cassette, which I showed you, which is the visual test. And then we have the smart rapid system, which is real time in the cloud with integration to your EMR through various APIs that we have. Yeah, so it's directly into your EMR.
Great. Thank you very much. That's all the questions I have.
Okay, thank you.
And let's go back to Harry for Ramona.
So,
yes.
Steve, can I ask a quick question? What sort of dosage can you give? And do you get an advantage by running higher doses for the small test versus biological samples?
So with regards to the concentration of medications that can be perfused through different organs, they're somewhat independent and they don't rely on the usual biologics that we're confounded to when we have to give a drug to a patient. For example, we can give a dose of antibiotic that would be nephrotoxic and kill kidneys, but still be able to just give it to the lungs and sterilize those lungs and clear it from pneumonia. So I'm not sure if that entirely answers your question there, Harry. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah. So anyway, that sounds good. Patient Tori, I have a quick question for you. It is critical that automated contact tracing be part of the comprehensive solution in getting the country back to work. Can you explain how your app performs this critical task?
Yeah, absolutely. So I described earlier the process for a medical professional verifying a diagnostic test result for a consumer using their app. And that gets recorded to the blockchain and it can be uploaded to any EMR system. This verifies a person's identity status as well on the app. So using that, once people are onboarded, the app can detect based on the blockchain network verification if they've been in contact with someone that tested negative or positive or were displaying symptoms of the virus. So that's part of that contact tracing mechanism that we've achieved using the decentralized blockchain network.
Okay, you mentioned a self-assessment quiz built into the app. Does your app have a direct link with any test providers at present so that the test results that are automatically entered, positive, negative, or so, into the app?
We're working with a diagnostic pop-up testing center outside of New York City. And part of our go-to-market is to also formulate relationships with national diagnostic companies and testing centers such as Quest, et cetera.
Thank you. Quantify, how might you be able to use, how might this be able to be used with the elderly population, many of whom are shut-ins and may not use social media?
It's a great question. There's a large population that is not using social media here. So we have some proposed work, right? It's not yet done, that they talk to their Alexas a lot, and there's actually some things that we can do there in that space.
Okay, organicNANO, do you see any issue using your filter in a radiation in space where there's a little bit more radiation environment?
No, I mean, that's something we would have to actually kind of do more testing at. I'm not totally a space expert, I guess, but I can't really see why it wouldn't necessarily work. I mean, it's a thermoplastic polymer embedded with metal ions. And then we can actually add other biological elements that probably would, be inhibited by being in space. But as far as the filter itself, I can't imagine that it would be inhibited or the radiation should affect, how this filter, acts. Does that answer your question?
Harry? Thank you. That's all I got.
Thank you, Harry. Kira, that concludes our Q&A.
Can we give one more applause? That's asking too much? So I requested a sound for applause because everything that we're doing is pretty challenging for the entrepreneurs and for the judges. So I just want to say thank you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to announce our next speaker. And so what I want to say is our next speaker is, he actually puts on the largest technology show in the world. I'm pretty sure it's in the world. Most people are very familiar with CES that occurs in Las Vegas. And I would say he's a visionary. He's an author of books on innovation, which I have found very insightful. And he is very passionate in the technology area. And I can also say he's a friend. But if you guys could please help me welcome him. I think we get applause for this too, maybe. I don't know. But welcome our speaker, Gary Shapiro. And then we're going to step off. The judges are going to step off right now so that we can actually engage and discuss who the top winner will be for this pitch competition. So thank you, Gary. And we'll join you guys shortly. All judges, turn your cameras off and put your speakers on mute.
Thank you very much, Kira. It's great to hear the innovation from the entrepreneurs. Actually, I think their job is much more difficult than mine, is just to speak about it. They actually have to do it. And speaking right now at this time in history, it's very auspicious for me because it harkens back this critical time the world is in to September 11th. And I was scheduled to give a speech shortly after September 11th. And I was going to talk about innovation. And it was something where I literally threw out what I was going to say and responded to the situation at hand. And I think I feel a little bit that way today, hearing some of the presenters and what the focus on the coronavirus and the quick response and the adjustments that have been made so fast. I mean, in September 11th, we had stock markets closed, people weren't flying, we had no flights were canceled, we went into a wartime footing. It all happened very, very quickly and it was very sudden. Coronavirus was definitely a bit more of a buildup, but it also has longer-term ramifications in many different ways. And today, having gone now through a number of recessions and some crises, it seems scary only because we're in it. But I like talking to this group because these are people that are actually doing something about it, which I find very gratifying. It's especially great to be speaking to NASA because NASA, for us, as Americans, represents the beacon of hope and what innovation can do to not only conquer and improve the world, but to go outside our world into others. And to me, when growing up, it was Kennedy who talked about getting the man on the moon. It was also Reagan about the shining city in the hill. And that's what I think exemplifies what we are and what we do. And in putting it back in the context of the coronavirus, there's a lot of politics and things like that, and I won't get into that, but I will say that the United States is taking some hits because we have more deaths than any other country. And I hate to say it, but we should have more deaths because we've been so successful in so many other ways. Because some people see record deaths, but I see more cancer survivors who live much longer than they should have because of our innovation. I see more people on kidney dialysis than any other country, proportionally. And those are the ones, of course, at risk. I see more people in nursing homes. I see more people with heart conditions. And of course, let's be honest, some of this we brought on ourselves because we have more obesity. And those are the people that are most at risk, and that's what we see. Our Americans are living very, very long, and we are curing things and taking care of people that no other country does. So when I see those comparisons, I want to point that out, that we're doing it, and we're doing it without all the restrictions that China put on, because China did great contact tracing and all these other things, but let's be honest, they really didn't, they stepped on a lot of people's civil rights in doing that in some of the ways that we would never accept here. And to me, it exemplifies the resilience of the American spirit, the ability to solve problems. And having looked at this for over 20 years now, what I think distinguishes us is our culture. It's a culture where we are based on immigration, where almost every one of us is here because we or our relatives that came before us came here because they wanted a better life. It's something where they were leaving everything they had in a different country and they had to start anew. And to survive, we had to do things differently. We had to ask, why not, rather than why. Our kids start lemonade stands and they start new businesses at a very young age because they have that entrepreneurial spirit. Our Constitution actually gives us some special rights that encourage innovation. The First Amendment, which allows us to speak freely. It allows us to not only give out information and criticize our government, but allows us to receive information. And again, I compare that to China, where there's a great wall around the internet, and companies like Facebook and Google and Twitter are just not allowed in there. And Chinese researchers are just not allowed access to information that their counterparts in the free world are allowed to. Now, I know our kids don't do that well at standardized tests, and I see in China the tremendous focus on memorization. I also see it in Japan. But I also see a struggle for creativity in those countries. Because our kids, yes, not all of them do well on standardized tests, but we are taught and trained, and our culture is to think outside the box. And what we do is we actually look at things and we try things. And when we fail, like many of you who are entrepreneurs, some of you have been successful, some of you not, you get up and you try again. And I know that when I hire people, if they've worked for an entrepreneur, if they've been an entrepreneur, if they've started and if they failed, that to me is as valuable as a technical or college degree. That's really important. So when I see our protections for the Constitution, I also think of how if you have a new business idea that threatens existing business models, it's something where you can go out there and very comfortably create something new, destroy existing industries or other businesses, and you know the government is not going to shut you down. Now, it may be because our First Amendment allows it, the existing businesses will try to stop you. We see that now, for example, with trial lawyers. They're trying to shut down self-driving. They're trying to kill it, so there have to be restrictions in every state, and you have to change license plates when you go from state to state. They don't like the idea that fewer accidents means fewer deaths, and that's something which will put them, a lot of them, out of business, suing people, suing car companies. But generally, we've resisted that as a country. That's been a strategy of ours. We have favored innovation. We've favored disrupting the status quo. We favored entrepreneurs. We favor small companies. And that's something we do. My organization produces CES. It's a very large, the largest trade show in the world, largest business event and largest innovation event. And it's held every January in Las Vegas. And it had almost 3 million square feet, 4,500 exhibitors. We have a special area of the show of over 1,200 companies that are just startups and small businesses. Because we as an organization want the startups because that's where the next big idea will come from. And we favor innovation, we favor liberty, and we favor choice as a country. And that's what we do. We believe in it so much as a trade association, or an American association of American companies, over 2,000 companies, that everything we do is, will it help or hurt innovation? One of the things we do is we rank every state on how innovation friendly it is, and we rank every country with data as to how innovation friendly they are. And that's something that we look at various criteria. It's very American centric. For example, in the country ratings, we look at do they allow liberty? Do they allow freedom to get to the internet, and freedom of religion, and freedom of speech? We look at whether or not there's a clean environment. We look at whether they welcome new sorts of business models like sharing services or drones or self-driving vehicles or all sorts of things like it, including Airbnb and Uber and Lyft. Do they welcome those or do they oppose them? Now, of course, we are dealing with that as a country. The benefit of our free market system is that if you produce something which is successful, you can make a tremendous amount of money. I was shocked a number of years ago when I was debating a host on television, and he said, "Why should Bill Gates have so much money?" And of course he should have so much money. He's enhanced the productivity of almost every buddy in the world in terms of what they can do with a computer. And that's something that the market has produced. And then, and out of fairness to Bill, he's taken that money and he's invested in ways which have benefited society. But that's something that we have to look at. The price of a free market system is something that we have to deal with the fact that there is inequality there. And you have to balance the benefits of inequality and the desire for equality against the fruits of wealth and how that affects innovation. So when I see us as the fact that we've succeeded for a number of great strategies. One of the strategies has been is we welcome the best and brightest from around the world to our schools and as immigrants. And I look at someone like Scott and Chandra, who created their business plan on the way back from CES and created their drafts of their patents. And I look at them, Canadians, who I'd love to see us get them here as Americans, and that's something we should be doing. But I'm a glass half full guy, and I believe that it's the kind of thing we have to look at is the good things and the positive things of any situation. And as horrific as the coronavirus or COVID-19 has been, it's produced some good things. For one, it's produced some of the innovations we heard today. It's produced a greater focus on antibody testing, on cleaning of airplanes, and so many other things, and data collection that I've just heard about. And it makes me happy. But let me tell you 8 good things that I think we've done. And again, this isn't to take away from the tragedy that people personally felt, their families, everything, the way people are suffering, living on. I don't want to diminish any of the horror of what we're experiencing globally and in the United States and in various places, and the fact that people have lost loved ones. I mean, it's definitely a tragedy. But I want to look at the good things we're getting at it. It's the things that we'll take away and look back years from now and say, this was a good thing. One is we're all learning new skills, whether it's video conferencing or how to consult people remotely, or how to deal with different things, or new skills that we just need to do our basic jobs. Of course, these are new barriers that we have to overcome, but we're learning new skills. Second thing is we're creating new businesses. Look at the ones we've heard about just this afternoon. And many, many more have been created. It's great to see people stepping in and solving real problems we have today, whether they're delivery services or party services or new ways of getting food or getting information or testing or publications or media or reading things. And that's really valuable for us. We're also seeing the great American spirit of coming forward. When we see a company like GM coming forward and making ventilators, or a company like Vox, I spoke to their CEO this morning at length, and he was telling me they took their Orlando factory, where they have a cut and stitch business that focuses on getting video products into cars, and the car business is pretty dead right now. And they've changed it so now they're making customized face masks for kids, for adults, with corporate logos and anything else. You know, I hear stories like that all around. I hear what Apple and Google have done, various services helping each other. We're better people as a result of this. We're also, I would add, that we're reordering our own personal values. What's important to us? Is stuff important to us, or is helping people important to us? Are our kids and our family important to us, or is it our status which is important to us? And that's making some things very different. We're also, another good thing we're doing is we're rapidly shifting our digital transformation. That's happening certainly in the events world. This is an event which I've been dying to go to, never could figure out how to do it physically. And now I'm able to come here and experience the event virtually. I'd actually rather meet you all in person, but we are going forward digitally very, very quickly, not just in events and meetings and conferences, but in so many other ways as well. We're learning, for example, distance learning in education. And my kids are at home today. They were each online with their classes, and it's a totally different experience for them, for their educational system, for everyone, and we're all doing it together, and we're learning from it. We'll be quicker and better and more digital citizens actually very quickly in the future. Another great benefit is that we're greening the earth. That's something that, all these debates about global warming and the Paris Accord and how little it did, here we have, in a matter of 2 months now, we've done more to stop pollution than anything probably in the last 10 years combined. When I go out and I run, when I breathe in the air, I realize that I have to use a lot fewer tissues than I have in the past. Everything is clean. It's quiet. It's kind of nice running down Main Street on a work day and seeing no cars there. I know it's bad in a lot of ways, but again, I'm a glass full guy. We also are starting with fits and starts, I will say. We were experiencing a global challenge. I love science fiction. I've read a lot of stories about how we take on, or seen movies, about how we take on the bad guys elsewhere. You know, I'll say one thing. President Trump calls this virus a really evil, tricky thing. And it is. It's a global challenge, and we still have not resolved it. It's almost amazing how well thought out it is, with a 14-day incubation period, with its different way of being passed along, with what appears to be asymptomatic carriers, with so many other things where we're struggling with this amazing challenge of antibody testing, where there really a lot of countries are returning tests they've gotten from China because they simply don't work. We face some challenges on that. And the other thing about it is realistic is we are not only as a world doing better, but I think the United States and the rest of the world are rethinking our relationship with China in different ways. Some of it positive. They've done some very good things with emulating, but some of it, they let this cat out of the bag. They could have avoided it. They could have shared information. They didn't. And that's something we're going to have to look back on and think very carefully where we want to be. And again, I'm not going to sit up here and criticize or applaud the president, but what he talked about the last couple of years about having essential manufacturing in China, that's something that's hit home really hard in the last couple of months, as we're seeing shortages of drugs, of test kit, antibody test kit, substrate, as we're seeing shortages of so many things that we vitally need. And that's something that I think the world has to do, because we face a fundamental choice in the world going forward. We face a choice of whether we are going to embrace Western values of free speech, of democracy, of innovation, of entrepreneurship, of free people, free religion, ability to marry who we want, all these things we value. Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Japan, United States, Mexico, lots of South and Central America. Or are we going to go the way of China, which is increasing its influence in Africa, and Latin America, certainly with North Korea and Cuba, where it's a repressive society where scientists are working for the state, essentially, and doing what the state bids. But they're also barred from having free discussions. They're barred from criticizing the government. And they're even removed or eliminated even today for criticizing the free flow of information about this virus and how it was caused, how it spread, and what it's doing. So in terms of what we're doing, in terms of what we're planning out, as an association, as an industry, as what we do is we support the policies that promote innovation, highly skilled immigration, trade, investment, the free market system, the value of startups, and things like that. And we're seeing so many great examples in our industry of people stepping up. And the other thing that I wish I'd mentioned as well is we've also seen the benefit of telehealth, tremendously telemedicine, and so much. It's been a radical, rapid change. We're seeing a lot of it in our own organization. We've been we created a website with the White House focusing on telemedicine. We're seeing the rise of new businesses, new companies. We're seeing doctors being saved from getting the virus because they could advise by telemedicine. People are coming out of the retired medical force. They're giving advice, and everything has changed in just a few months, and it's been rather rapid. This will go down as probably the most rapid change in the history of our country, if not the world, where things change in just a few months. And it's not played out yet, and we'll see where it goes. Having said that, I don't have any idea where we are with time, and I don't know if there's time left for questions, but I want to leave that to those putting on the conference, especially Robin Ford, who's done such a great job getting us this far. So I'll turn it over to you, Robin, and I'll see if there's any questions or if there's time for questions.
Thank you, Gary. We have time for a few questions. Who would like to go first?
Yeah, I got a question for you, Gary.
Actually, so
Oh, do you go first, Sean?
you can thank him. So thanks for your words of encouragement. That was actually really helpful speech for everyone to listen to, and thank you for inviting us to America. We'd love to come. So my question is, obviously, CES is such a pivotal part of technology, and companies like ours. As I said, we founded our company at CES and wrote our patents on the plane home. You have such an eye at the beginning of a company's journey to the end. What are some of the strong characteristics? I'm just trying to think of what would be good for the entrepreneurs on the call to hear. So what are some winning traits you see in entrepreneurs that take them to the finish line?
Well, I know you've already created a company, if I'm correct. I believe you sold it to Apple. So I think you know the answer to this question much better than I did. There's a lot of good ideas out there. It's execution on them, which is so difficult. You have to have the passion. I don't think it could just be about the money. I think it has to be about you believe in what you're doing, and your employees and the people you hire and your investors are passionate about the cause. And I think that's really important for the successful companies. You also have to have the vision to look at the market where it's going rather than where it is today, to quote a great Canadian, Wayne Gretzky. That is something important because I've seen, especially in the big company world that I spend a lot of time in, it's shocking to me that big companies plan and they look at the world picture and they think it's not going to change, and all their competitors are doing the same thing when they all rush to market with the same thing. So I think actually entrepreneurs have great opportunities over bigger companies because big companies are very slow. They have a lot of levels of approval to get anything done, and you can make a decision and switch on a dime. And what we tell the 1,200 companies which go to Eureka Park, our startup area in CES, is don't come with a fixed idea of everything you're going to do. Go there with 2 ears and 1 mouth and use them in the ratio God gave them to you. Listen to people who are your potential buyers and trade. Don't go with a perfect prototype. Go there just ready to shift your whole business plan in 4 days when you get several hundred people giving you input. So that would be my advice for companies is to don't let the perfect be the enemy of the great and keep changing until you get something that customers want.
Thank you. That's great.
That's great.
That's great.
I love the ratio bit.
I love that.
I try with my kids and that doesn't work.
We have time for one more question.
So I got one for you. You've named a bunch of really awesome things that have changed as a result of COVID. And so what do you see of those rolling back immediately, or which ones do you think are going to stick around?
Which things that will stick around? I think
cleaner air, less travel, more Zoom.
I think we forever changed the way we're going to do business. I mean, the handshake, which I think will be the thing of the past. I think we'll go to a foot swipe or an elbow bump or something. I also think the digital transformation is real. I think people will be traveling a little bit less. It'll be slow coming back. But I still think we need that face-to-face, 5-sense interaction. The way we go to a show like CES or other shows, and you get to see how a company presents itself. And you have the value of serendipity there. That's so important. Getting out and seeing another culture, having another experience, seeing things side by side in an efficient way. So that until we could have honeymoons, which are virtual, I don't think business is going to be 100% virtual unless this virus mutates and gets worse. And we're going to have, I think, a struggle for at least till 2021 of doing things very differently. I think it'll be a very slow rollout. There'll be a lot of things going backwards on. I mean, we see that around the world already, where even China is just not where it thought it would be now. And we're seeing events canceled there, prohibitions. And Europe, we just saw an event in September that was canceled already. So this is going to be a slow road back, and it will become a habit for a lot of the things we're doing today.
All right. Thank you so much, Gary. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Gary. Well, and I was worried you wouldn't have enough questions. Not really. I knew you'd be just fine. So let's just do our sort of thank you, Gary. I know I'm trying to make it just the best I can, like real life, but thank you. We appreciate it. So the judges have convened, and Harry, our chief technologist, is going to announce our winner. So Harry, do you want to go ahead and?
So I would like to thank all the presenters. I thought it was absolutely outstanding today. I'd like to thank all the judges. We had a lot of discussion on the various presentations. Mind you, there were several criteria, including we could see a direct use for NASA applications. All of the presenters received scores that people thought that they were ready to go, and I really appreciated the investors and the medical insight into various investment possibilities. For today, we'd like the winner of this one is organicNANO. They developed masks, and it has a number of things that were particularly interest to NASA. One is reusable, which is potentially extremely useful for lunar exploration because of the reusability of the mask. You can replace the filter. dust on the moon is quite significant. It has a whole bunch of potential ways that it could influence the market terrestrially, and so I think there's a lot of opportunities for that. Again, I'd like to thank all of the presenters. I think it was excellent. Thank you.
I think we're going to bring up organicNANO for just a second to say a few words.
Yes, I'm here, everyone. First off, this is for all of the healthcare professionals out there, out on the battle line right now. This mask is for you. I hope we can bring it to market as fast as possible for you. I'm a very diligent researcher, and I really hope this helps in any type of capacity. I have so many people to thank, and I hope we can get it all done within 2 or 3 minutes. But yeah, other innovators, NASA iTech, everyone listening, but especially, NASA iTech and the other innovators, it's been a pleasure chatting with y'all. It's been super, encouraging, and I've learned a lot, in this interaction, and it's going to live long in my mind, I guarantee you. Dr. Mills and AJ, perfect research partners. I love you guys. You guys have been insurmountable in all of this. Dr. Mills is a true leader, man of science and integrity. He inspires me as much as I hope I like to think I inspire him. And AJ, he's the one that helped, bring this idea to life. So thank you. Thank you, Mom. Thank you, my girlfriend, Amber. I probably need to recognize her. And then, everyone at AFWorks, Brent, Grant, the United States Air Force, everyone that's been behind me in this. It's been such a joy to work with every single one of y'all. And I can't wait to meet everyone else in this event, coming out to NASA. Maybe be an astronaut one day, who knows? But if I could leave you with one message, it would be this. There's always time to do the things you love in life. And for me personally, that's being around you, Amber. That's going up to the lab and being a mad scientist, like my friends often tell me. And then, yeah, most importantly, I loved running and biking, and I have these huge aspirations of being a professional triathlete one day. And I'm looking for sponsorship, maybe, people to help me along the way, because I've been helped so much in this journey and in life. And so this goes out to all those people out there. So thank you, everyone. I'm eternally grateful for this opportunity. So thank you.
Well, congratulations, Chris. We actually love what you're doing and the passion that you have. And so every one of you, thank you for taking the time and being a part of this. For all my judges that are volunteering their time to do this, we couldn't do it without you. The feedback that you gave was phenomenal. And Gary, thank you for speaking. I am sure that I'll get to watch the video, unfortunately, because I was with the judges, but I appreciate it, and I know the entrepreneurs probably did. So thank you so much, everyone, and have a great day. And I think we got our time back. So thank you. Thanks, everyone.